Cyber attacks happen every day and cost billions of dollars in financial damages every year. Now, Sekur has an encrypted Swiss-based email and messaging system that can prevent a lot of that. And with me is the CEO, Alain Ghiai, to talk a little bit more about, let's just start with the big news. You've got a huge new contract to talk about. Tell me about that.
Yes, thank you, Jane, and hello to everyone who's watching us. So we're very excited because this morning we announced our first government contract with Secure Messenger. And if you read the press release, you can go to Swiss F on Yahoo Finance or anywhere. And I encourage people to read the press release. This was from a government in Latin America. We have to obviously keep the government and the country private for obvious reasons. But what's critical are two things. First, that the decision was very quick to make, which means that we didn't have to wait several months and convince them, etc. And why? Because they clearly saw the advantages of Secure Messenger, the fact that we don't ask for your phone number, that we house everything in Switzerland on our own platform, that we're not housed on a typical big tech, which are US platforms, so Microsoft, Amazon, Google, and so forth, because we know other telcos and government that obviously they use Office 365, and now they're getting, spam, and they say, you haven't been on LinkedIn since yesterday. So these platforms are very connected when it comes to big data. Obviously, governments don't want to be spied on, and that's a great way to prevent that is to use Secure Messenger. The other thing is that from the same country, we expect more agencies to adopt, but now this really validates that this is a real secure and private solution. When you have a government entity buying your product, that's a big deal. So we expect in the next few years from Latin America and from South Asia as well to do a lot more government contract for the messenger and also for the email as well. So we're pretty excited. This is just the beginning of a much bigger road with government entities wanting to protect themselves from rogue entities that are trying to hack them and really paralyze them.
Yeah. Well, and once you've got one government contract, the first one's always the hardest one to get, no matter what it is. And then the other ones come.
Yes, and once you have one, others come, and it's just a snowball effect. And the fact that we have the Swiss privacy, our ethics, our company, they know that we're not going to go and divulge any name out there, that we don't look into their data. So they have that trust, right? I mean, what are the options, right? There's no other option in messaging, right, of that level.
Interesting. And your shares were up in response to that.
Yes, the shares are up. We're quite happy. They're up, I don't know exactly, 15, 20%. I mean, at some point it went up close to 30+%. I think the shares are slowly, people are realizing that we exist, right? Because you have 15,000 public companies and nobody can find out about all of them. So people are slowly realizing we exist. Mm-hmm. In terms of the share structure, there's probably not much more than 40 to 50 million shares in the float. So that's a very small float. You got like thousands of people that want to buy a piece of the company. They're going to have to fight for it. And we have a lot more going on in the next coming year. And I'm happy that people are discovering us, both obviously as investors, and we want everybody to do well. But most importantly, we're happy because they discover our product. I mean, I would say 80% of our shareholders usually buy the solution, which is fantastic. So you get loyalty, you get long-term shareholder, you get satisfied and happy clients. That's what's really good about us.
So Alain, now's a great time to tell people how to find your shares.
Yes. So you can buy it in the US market under the ticker Swiss F, SWISF, under OTC QB. In Canada, under the Canadian Security Exchange, they call the CSE, under the symbol Swiss, SWIS. We also trade in Frankfurt under the ticker GDT. I should mention that we technically qualify for the OTCQX due to our asset base, and we will be filing just an in-between upgrade before we move on to probably a bigger exchange in the coming couple of years. But we want to go to the OTCQX. The minute that we have our financials completed for 2021, we expect to be able to file for that, for the exchange upgrade around March of next year. And this is just a stepping stone to a much bigger exchange level as the company grows gently. So very easy to find. You type Swiss F or Globex Data Ltd. You can buy it from anywhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, why do you think they chose Sekur?
Well, the choice was obvious because you don't have a choice. You have WhatsApp, which everybody knows is Facebook, aka Meta data mining. In fact, it kind of goes metadata. They do metadata mining essentially. And then you have Signal. But Signal, there was an article the other day from someone that disclosed that Signal now is going closed source. Now, sometimes it's good not to be open source, but in this case, they're going closed source because now they'll be able to mine your data and maybe sell it to Facebook. I mean, the article even discusses the fact that if Google gives them 20 billion, will they have cooperation with them and sell data? Because what happens is right now, they can't scan your text and whatnot and not having developers know it because it's open source. When you're in a closed system, like Apple and iPhone, and the stories about them scanning every photo that you have in there and whatnot, once you're closed, that's it. You do what you want and nobody knows. This is usually the next step of this free application. If I may, I'd like to quote one of my two directors who has been 27 years in Silicon Valley. He said, when money talks, privacy is out the window. Sekur was designed from the onset to ensure privacy by being a paid service whose entire mission is to protect privacy, because we do charge $5 a month, unlike other messaging apps that initially offer a free service and then eventually find ways to make money from selling some aspect of their users' data. So that summarizes why people use Sekur. Also, our security feature, no phone number required, our self-destruct timers, our privacy, our own platform, the encryption that we use and so forth. For the government, it was a no-brainer because they all use WhatsApp and Signal. Telegram has been banned, actually, I believe, in Mexico. It was actually not too long ago. So there's no option for governments, and everybody now chats, right? They don't talk to each other. Chat is a lot faster than talking. I mean, not for me, but you know, for a lot of people, or emailing and so forth. So they have a solution there, and I think it's going to grow like wildfire. And next year, when we're going to launch to businesses officially, because we are tweaking the solution a bit. We're getting a lot of amazing feedback from our consumers in the US, and one of them is they want to have that contact upload and upload all their contacts. So we found a way to do it protectively, not to data mine their contacts. So we're going to have new iteration of the application by the end of the year, which will make it even 100 times easier to use. And it's just going to be, I think, the messaging app by default for businesses. That's what we're trying to get.
Yeah, and I think you're doing exactly what you need to do is let people know you exist. So because just, Google and everybody else is just so dominant. And I'm glad you explained the closed source versus the open source, because I think people might say, oh, closed source, more secure, but that's not necessarily true.
Not necessarily. And all these free applications, they go open source because they get free development, essentially. Now they have tons of users' data and they need to monetize that. And if somebody says, well, you're closed source as well, sure we are, but we're not on Amazon Web Service, which Signal is on. Nothing wrong with Amazon. I have admiration for Jeff Bezos and the company, but I don't want to have my data mined. So I'm not going to use a service that's hosted on AWS or Google or Microsoft. So our closed loop, our closed system is essentially Swiss, private platform, multiple encryption level, and we obey by the Swiss data privacy laws, which obviously Signal doesn't.
Okay. Well, thank you. And I look forward to getting more details on the Latin American contract, which country it is, and when you're able to release it.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Jane, and talk to you next week, hopefully.
Talk to you next week.